Thank you. Oh my gosh, it's so good to be here. They told me not to go over this line, not to get too close. I'm coming close. Give me the high five. Give me the high five. Give me the high five. High five. Thank you guys so much. Thank you at home. I'm high-fiving you. I am so excited to be here. So excited to be back with Create It Live because this feels for me like it's family. And we've had, some of you have seen the show that we did before. We've had 32,000 people go through the first class I taught here, which was Start Late, Finish Rich, which you're holding a book from. And so I reached out to Chase, who I just really respect and admire, and said, Chase, let's do something totally crazy. Let's launch the Latte Factor before it comes out, not on a television show, but here at Create It Live, and let's create a class on this book, the Latte Factor Mastery Class. So today I'm gonna take you through this book before it comes out in stores and walk you through the life lessons on how you can truly live rich. The subtitle of this book is Why You Don't Have to Be Rich to Live Rich. And I'm going to show you how small wins, small amounts of money, can truly, truly change your life. Because it starts with small wins. So that, even if you're here and you're living paycheck to paycheck. By the way, I'm not putting any of you on the spot, but how many of you know someone who's living paycheck to paycheck? Okay, so 7 out of 10 men, we have one brave gentleman in the audience today. 7 out of 10 men in this country are living paycheck to paycheck. 8 out of 10 women are living paycheck to paycheck. And I'm going to go through some of these statistics in a little bit here, but if you're living paycheck to paycheck right now, if you are in student debt, which you're going to learn, like our main character in this book, Zoe Daniels, is in student debt. If you feel like you're drowning, I'm here to tell you today that there's hope. There are truly things that you can do to take charge of your financial life today. I'm going to be giving you, this is not a theory class. This is an action class. Like, you've all got pads of paper to take notes with, and you at home can take a lot of notes. I am in the activator business. He said I'm a teacher at heart. It's truly what I love to do. I've been doing this now for 26 years. It is my passion. But I teach to motivate you to action. Because education without action is entertainment. Okay? It won't change your life. Those of you who are look, we have a small audience here. This is about the audience at home. And so for whatever reason, if you're at work or you're at home or you're at the gym later and you're watching this because you've bought it and you're watching on your iPad or your phone, information's amazing provided you use it. So as I go through the class today, I'm going to be very specific and intentional about what you need to do. All in favor of taking action? Say aye. Aye. This is a good audience. Okay, so I'm going to teach you the first person who taught me to take action. And that is my grandma Rose Bach. So this is a picture of my grandma Rose Bach. The first book I ever wrote, Smart Women Finish Rich. That was my first book. 20 years ago it came out. It just came out for its 20-year anniversary edition. It's dedicated to my grandmother. And I did an interview before, if you were watching, with Chase. Chase and I had an amazing hour together. You should go back and watch that. I shared this story, but I'm going to share it again for those of you who weren't there, that I learned about money at a very young age, and I learned about it from my grandmother. So my grandmother came from the generation that was poor, right? It was the Great Depression generation, and she did not have a college education. And at 30, she was living paycheck to paycheck. And both her and my grandfather were really very middle class, probably even lower middle class, in terms of the money they made and the way they lived. And at 30, my grandmother made a decision that ultimately would completely change our family's destiny. And the decision that she made was that she was tired of being poor. So at 30, the way she tells the story, is at 30, on her birthday, she turned to my grandfather, whose name was Jack, and said, Jack, this is not working. Now, when you're the husband and you hear this is not working, that's not a good thing. And he's like, what's not working? She said, in case you haven't noticed, we're poor. And he said, oh, it's not so bad. She said, no, it's pretty bad. We don't have money in the bank. We're renting. We basically live paycheck to paycheck. There's so much that we can't do, and I'm tired of it. And by the way, maybe some of you right now are tired of this. And she said, I'm tired of it. And my grandfather would said to her, well, what do you want to do about it? And you know what she said? I don't know, but things have to change, and I'm going to go figure it out. So it gives me chills because she started to figure it out. Back in her day, she went to adult education classes, and she started taking classes on money, and she started taking classes on investing. And she told my grandfather, we're going to start saving to invest. And so she started putting 50 cents out of her paycheck and 50 cents from his paycheck, literally in a coffee can in the kitchen. How many of you remember coffee cans? Okay, you do, because it's a pretty young audience, but she had a coffee can in the kitchen. She put the money in the coffee can. In order to save that money, she had a brown bag her lunch. So she worked at Gimbel's department store in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and she had to find the money. The latte factors later, we're going to talk about how you find the money. In her case, she brown bagged her lunch, and her friends teased her. They said, oh, come on, come to lunch with us, you're so cheap. She would bring her brown bag to lunch, and they would tease her for it. And she'd say, well, I'm saving to invest. And they'd say, what do you need to save to invest? You're going to have a pension plan someday. She's like, yeah, but it's not going to be enough. And she said, but I don't want to, she hated being in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It was cold. She's like, I want to retire to Florida or California someday. Said, you'll never have enough money to do that. She's like, I'm going to try. So she saves this money, and at the end of the year, she takes it down to a brokerage firm. She walks in the door, she meets with the broker, and the broker looks at her and says, we don't open accounts for women. You need to come back with your husband. Now, there's almost all women in this audience. My grandmother goes, there are 4 brokerage firms on this street. If you don't want my money, I will just go next door. And they said, ma'am, why don't you sit down? And she opens the account. Now, the way the story turns out is that first year, she loses everything she invests, which is amazing because over her lifetime, she becomes a millionaire. But the first year, by getting stock tips, she just makes investments because she still doesn't really know what she's doing. And at the end of the year, she's lost everything. And I go, what did Grandpa say? She said, I didn't tell him. So she goes, at 31, I had to go learn better. You're going to see in a second, I'm going to say, when you know better, you can do better. She said, at 31, I'm still poor. I have to go get better skills, which is, by the way, why you're here. Create It Live, you come to Create It Live to learn new skills that you either may not have or you're just not doing yet. Because a lot of what I'm going to talk about today, probably most of it, you already know you should do it, but you might not be doing it. It's not enough to know it, you got to do it. So she learned how over her lifetime to invest. And over her lifetime, she became a self-made millionaire. Totally innocent, eating Milo Big Mac and French fries and apple pie and milkshake. She said, you know, you can get rich here. You like to play the game of Monopoly. I can teach you today how to play it for real. She said, I'm going to take you home today and show you how you can own this place. She said, see, there's 3 types of people in the world. See that person over there that's working at the cash register? That's called a worker. And that poor worker makes minimum wage. Do you know how much minimum wage is? I go, no, Grandma, how much is it? She said, right now it's 85 cents an hour, which 7 seemed like a lot of money because I was like, that's a bunch of gum. But she said, it's not a lot of money and super hard to get ahead on minimum wage. She said, then there's you. You just came here and got the Big Mac and the large fries and the apple pie and the milkshake. Say thank you, by the way. Thank you, Grandma. And you spent money. And then there's somebody else who owns this place. I'm going to teach you how to own this place because when you own it, when you come eat here, you'll make money from yourself. When your friends come here, you'll make money from them. Grandma, how could I own McDonald's? She said, I'll show you. She takes me home. She opens up the Wall Street Journal. She circles MCD. She says, that's the stock symbol. Now go watch the TV screen. I'm going to teach you how to read the ticker tape. She gives me a pad of paper. She's like, every time MCD goes by, write down the number. That will be the moment the price goes by. That's what it's trading for right now. So the stock symbol is going by. I'm calling it out. $17, Grandma, $17. And something else, a line with a square. I didn't know what fractions were. And she's like, that's how much it costs to buy that stock. And then she took me to go buy my first share. She's like, now you own this place. Now you're an owner of McDonald's. At 9 years old, I go to Disneyland. I'm like, can you buy this place too? And that would be my second stock. Her lessons would shape my whole destiny. And so I was a financial advisor, and I came in the financial services industry in 1993 alongside my father. And we had a lot of older clients, and the clients were starting to die. And the ones that almost always die first are the men. 80% of men, this is an important statistic to write down, 80% of men die married. 80% of women die widowed, which is why I became a crusader for women's financial empowerment, because it's women who are the ones that are hurt the most in their older years. 80% of the poverty-stricken elderly are women. It's because you've lived longer. My grandfather passed away in his early 70s. My grandmother lived to be 86. I have two Grandma Roses. My mom's mom lived to be 96. Her husband died at 56. Guess what the average age of widowhood is still in this country today? 57. Whoa. Yeah. So we start having these clients who are dying, and I'm meeting with women who do not know how to write checks or read their brokerage statement. And I say to my father, Dad, what is going on in this office? We have all these clients that are dying, and they're all men, and we're teaching the wives how to read their brokerage statements at the worst possible point in their life. This is insane. He goes, well, David, what are you talking? He goes, here's the thing. Not everybody was like your grandmother. She's not the norm. We have all, this is 1993, we have all these older clients. She's like, it's kind of always been the men that are managing the money. I go, well, if Grandma Bach can do it, then we need to change this. I'm going to go teach a class for women in money. I had a vision to teach a class around this size. This is 1994. We send an invitation out. 222 women from our clients want to come to the first seminar. The invitations are coming in. My dad's opening the mail. He sees it. He goes, you know, son, you may have a problem. I go, what's the problem? He goes, have you checked to see if the hotel room can fit this many people? I'm like, Dad, it was a brand new hotel. It was the Lafayette Park Hotel. I'm like, oh, I'm sure it'll be fine. He goes, you better call them. I call them up. They go, yeah, we can fit 107 people. So good news is the room is full. Now I've got to teach this class 2 times and 3 times. I just did an event 2 days ago with my sister, Emily, back in the Bay Area where this whole thing started, back in 1994. And I got to have a private event with our clients. There were 2 women from my first seminar in that room 2 nights ago. And the amazing thing is one of them was young. At the time, she was in her 20s. Now, 25 years later, she's in her 40s. One of the women in that room, her name is Lynn Hadley. I'm going to show you another book here in a second. Lynn Hadley came to that first seminar, and I taught her how to double down on her savings because she wanted to retire early. How many of you want to retire early? So Lynn came to the seminar, and she's like, I want to retire early. Well, then, Lynn, you need to make some serious changes. Okay, show me what to do. I showed her what to do. She retired early. Then she ended up in the Automatic Millionaire book to tell her story. Then she went to Oprah with me. So one more client sitting in my room 2 days ago from 25 years ago. So the first book I wrote after I taught this class for years was Smart Women Finish Rich. And then I've written a whole bunch more after that. Smart Couples and all these books you see here. There's been 11 books out. And it's just been a total blessing and a privilege to be out basically teaching now for 25 years. This is what I love to do. And today what I'm excited to do is teach you about the latte factor. So I have written 3 updates. These 3 books have been updated in the last 18 months. Smart Women Finish Rich, Smart Couples Finish Rich, and The Automatic Millionaire. I am always asked, which book should I read first? I'm going to tell you today, The Latte Factor. Most people start with The Automatic Millionaire. This book has sold 1.5 million copies. One of the most popular financial books of our time. Smart Women Finish Rich has sold over 1 million copies. It's the most popular financial book for women ever. Smart Couples Finish Rich is actually the most popular couples book. So it's 3 great books for you. Today we're going to talk about the latte factor. So, yes. This is totally different than anything I've ever done. And I wrote this book in a different way because I want to reach people who wouldn't normally read a financial book. So this is not a typical self-help, nonfiction financial book. It's a story. It is a story you can read. It's super small. And you can read it in like an hour. 2 hours max. And it's a story that's going to take you on a journey about a young woman named Zoe Daniels. And by going on the journey with her, you're going to learn the life lessons that you're richer than you think, that small amounts of money can change your life, that you're stronger than you know. And most importantly, you're going to learn it's actually not about the money. It's about your dreams and how you go get them. And that's what today's class is going to be about. Some of you are on my amazing insider team. Who here is from my insider team? So what? Are you 1, 2, 3? Okay, basically, the whole audience is from my insider team. So what I did to pre-launch this book, and I'm telling you all this because those of you who are at home, you can still join me. We created an insider team of people who want to change their life financially by reading this little story, and then ultimately we'll go share these lessons, these 3 secrets on how to build financial freedom with your friends. Because my idea was if we could get a couple thousand truly motivated, inspired human beings, that together we could go out and make a difference in the world, make a little dent. So I created this website. It's at thelattefactor.com. And bribery is an amazingly valuable tool. So what I did, and it worked because you all took the bribe, is I said, if you go buy 1 copy of this book, and you can do this right now too, on my website at thelattefactor.com, I'm going to entice you with bribes, and those bribes are free gifts. One of those free gifts happens to be, thanks to my friends at Create Live, you get the Start Late, Finish Rich course, which normally we would sell for $149, has 19 videos. Have you guys watched it? Yeah. It's amazing, right? And that's included. So you go buy the book, you get the ability to watch that course immediately. Also, another keynote speech, and then a bunch of other goodies. The most valuable, I think, is our Insider Facebook page. Because what's happened now is we have 1,600 people on this team. 1,100 got on Facebook, and now we have a viral community inside supporting each other. What I'm going to talk about also today is that you need people who support your dreams. You need to remove yourself from the toxic people, and you need to embrace the people that support you. And so at our private Facebook page, we've built a team that will support you. So come on over to thelattefactor.com and join us. A couple of things I also just launched is the Latte Factor podcast. This is all free. So at thelattefactor.com, you can download the podcast. There's 8 episodes. The first episode is the first 3 chapters of the book, narrated by me. So you can go listen to that today for free. Ultimately, when you go buy the audio, it won't be narrated by me, but that's on the podcast. So check that out. We just put this up yesterday, so brand new. So back to the book. I wanted to write a book that anyone would read, starting with my son. So my son, Jack, is 15. And he's the most amazing, I actually have the most amazing teenage son. Jack, I love you. I really do. I'm like the proud dad that loves his son. And my son, basically, he doesn't ever disappoint me, except he hasn't read any of my books. So every time I would put a book, the books sit by his bed, I always sign them for him. And I'm like, you got to read The Automatic Millionaire. You're at an age now, Dad, I go to your seminars. I don't need to read the book. No, you need to read the book. But he didn't read the books. Telling the truth. So I thought, if I put it in a story that a teenager could read, if I can reach people starting in their teens and college and millennials and anybody else who needs it but just would not read a financial book, I can help a lot more people. So my son, who's never read one of my books, he read this book on a plane flight in 2 hours, cover to cover, without bribery. So he turns to me and he goes, at the end, Dad, this book's really good. This book's really good. And he turns to the back of the book, and I'm going to show you in a little bit the chart. But there's this incredible chart in the back of the book. And he goes, is this chart real? And I go, yeah, it is. He's like, well, Dad, if I did this, I would be a multimillionaire. And I go, I know. And he's like, well, then we need to do this for me. So that really made my day. And then the second thing that made my day is this book, and we'll talk about this later too, but this book talks about going for your dreams and taking risk. And there's a story about my grandmother in there too, where I'll tell that later, but she comes to a fork in the road and she doesn't take the risk and she regrets it. And he read that part of the book and he said, Dad, the most important lesson I got from this book, I need to take a risk. And I'm like, you're right. Anything in life you really want, you have got to go take risk. You have to take the road less traveled. And I'm going to teach you how to do that today. There are a lot of you right now that are playing it safe. And safe's okay unless safe is making you sad. Right? A lot of people who are watching right now happen to be watching this at work because you don't like your job. So you've got earphones on and you're supposed to be working, but you're sad. You don't want your job. Even if it's paying well, it's not what you want to do. There was a recent study that came out by Intuit. They said there's 24 million people right now who have a job that want out in the next 12 months. And only probably, according to the survey, about 2 million will make the leap. It's like, man, first of all, I don't even know how they get these stats. They obviously did a big survey to get it, but I'm like, 24 million people basically they don't want their job? Look, I'm not trying to get everybody across America to quit their jobs today, but if you don't love what you're doing, we need to get you to financial freedom. We're going to talk about how to retire early. And I'm going to actually teaching you today how to transition early. Because it's actually not about, in my opinion, retiring early. If you want to, fantastic, we'll show you how to do this today. But it's about transitioning you financially so that you are free to leave something that's making you sad so you can go for what your heart really desires. Does that make sense? When you know better, you can do better. It truly is all about knowledge. The biggest mistake we have made in America is we don't teach money in school. Everything I'm going to teach today should have been taught to you by the time you got to high school. It is an absolute flaw in our academic system that we spend a fortune on that we don't teach money in school. It is wrong. And so most Americans are fundamentally financially illiterate, and then you are basically designed to be broke almost from birth. Because if you don't know how to do well financially, if you don't know how to play the game of money, you are quite frankly doomed. The banking system, the insurance system, the car industry, I can just go on and on and on. All these corporations and industries are designed to take your money. And they're smarter than we are. They've been doing this for decades. They're billion-dollar conglomerates with lobbyists. They create tax laws. But you can fight back with some basic information. And that's where we go today. Today is about what I call it timeless truths and principles that work. The Latte Factor Masterclass. This is the journey that we're going to go on today. We're going to go on a journey that shows you you're richer than you think, you're stronger than you know, You deserve your dreams to come true. Here's what we're going to uncover. We're going to talk about your why when it comes to money. Why do you want to be financially free? If you want to retire early, why is that? What's driving you? You get clear on your why, you become unstoppable. How do you become rich on an ordinary income? See, we're sort of trained to believe if we could make more money, we could save and invest. And then what happens in the real world is we make more money, and what do? Spend more money. And that's because everything's designed for us to spend more money. Make more money, and you deserve to have nicer things, so you spend more money, so you're constantly broke. And then at a certain point, you just get tired. And you start to lose hope. So I want to show you that you don't need a lot of money to have a lot of money. I'm going to show you the exact formula to becoming a millionaire. And how do you transition again from where you are today to where you want to go? So to get there, we're going to have to teach you how to make your money make money. Because I promise you, you cannot get rich by saving in a bank account and earning nothing. It's not possible unless you inherited millions of dollars or win the lottery. Don't buy lottery tickets. You're just not going to build wealth at 1% or zero. There's $50 billion in bank accounts earning zero right now. So we need to show you how to get 7, 8, 9, or 10% of your money. And I'm going to teach you a rule called the Rule of 72 that will show you how long it takes to double your money. I'm going to teach you what's called the investment pyramid. I'm going to go through all the different types of investments today, literally from checking accounts all the way to the top of it to what's high risk, so you can get higher rates of return. I'm going to show you what habits truly make millionaires. I'm going to share with you why you need to forgive yourself if you're not where you want to be, because we're really good at beating ourselves up, and you got to stop. So wherever you are today, what matters is where you're going tomorrow. And you got to let it go. You got to move forward. You got to change your story. A lot of you say, well, I'm not good with money. Yeah, you got to change that. You go from saying, I'm not good with money to, I'm freaking great with money. Like, I was not good with money today, and then tomorrow's your new day. And you're like, I'm a money master. I'm a money motivator. I am unstoppable when it comes to my money. We're going to change your mindset today. And the reason we want to do that is I want to teach you how to make your future bigger than your past. Really important, worth writing that down. You need to make your future bigger than your past. At any age. Okay, I run a registered investment advisory firm. I'm a co-founder of a registered investment advisory firm. We started it 3 years ago. We have over 500 financial advisors around the country. The company's called AE Wealth Management. We have $7 billion now on the platform. I go around the country and do talks for our retired clients. And so our clients, when I'm in a room with them, the age is between 60 to probably 85. And I tell our clients, and this is the truth, retirement can absolutely be the best years of your life. Turns out the happiest years of people's lives right now are between 60 and 75. That was not expected to be the case. But between 60 and 75, we're healthier than we've ever been. When you retire, you have this amazing thing. It's called time affluence. You get to do what you want to do when you want to do it. You still have your energy. You have people you love, like grandchildren, who want to spend time with you. You can travel. It's just turning out to be this incredible time in people's lives. And this is a young audience, so you all have that to look forward to. But not everybody's happy in retirement. And what we've seen from research is the difference between someone in retirement who's happy and someone who's depressed and often dies sooner is the way they think. And what determines what they're thinking about is, are they thinking about their past or their future? And you've met these people. Sometimes they're your parents, right? Like, everything at a certain age becomes about who they used to be and what they used to do, which is depressing. And the happiest retirees have a plan for their future. They're excited about something. There's something new that they want. Well, the amazing thing is you can take that research and that knowledge about retirees and you can apply it to your life at any age. Fastest way to get yourself out of a rut is to come up with something new you want to do and be. What is it you want to do and be that would bounce you out of bed and get you excited? So, I said to you, when you know better, you can do better. And what I'm going to show you right now is what I call the timeline of life. And that is our cue for these guys to bring in this timeline. And what I want to do with this timeline, like, again, this should be taught, I think, in high school, but I'm going to teach it to you today because it's an important way for you to think about your life. When would you say most people get their first job?
15, 16.
Most people.
18?
Most people.
21.
Yeah. I'm gonna make the argument that most people get their first job in their 20s. Right? So I want you to follow me here for a second. Most people go get their first real job if they went to college at 21 or 22. I'm going to use 20 to keep the chart clean. All right? So you didn't have to work from here to here, true? We would call that the no work time, which is why adults always say, I wish I were a kid. Right? So, but then you go and you get a job. How long do most people work? When do most people retire? 65, 67, 68. Here's the truth across America. Most people are done working by 60. The actual age that most people retire right now is 62. Now, it's not because everybody wants to retire at 60. It's because 56% of workers who have jobs are forced out of work between the age of 50 and 60. So if you have a job right now in your 20s, your 30s, and your 40s, and you're like, you know what, they say we're going to live really long now. I heard I'm going to live to 100. I'm going to just work until I'm 70 or 80. It is the biggest myth in America that you are going to work until you're 70 or 80. There are some people doing it, but they're doing jobs that might be like greeters at Walmart, right? Like, here's the thing. If you have a corporate job, you're not self-employed, and you have a corporate job, there's no one in corporate America today that's saying to themselves, how do we keep these people till they're 70? Every single day you're seeing downsizing. What they're calling them are retirement packages. What everyone in corporate America wants to do is get the 50-year, this person right here, they want them off the balance sheets in the next 5 years. Why? Because if you're 50, you are highly compensated and about to be more expensive. You're about to get sick, and they don't want to pay your healthcare costs. So that's why 1 in 2 people are forced out at 56, forced out by their jobs. But a whole bunch of other people get sick and can't work. I know this, you guys are looking at me like it is slightly depressing. It's a super important point. The reason it's a super important point is that you've got 1 decade, 2 decades, 3 decades. You have 30 years on average to make your money move. You've got 30 years to take the money that you're making and pay yourself first, which we're going to go through. Compound interest works when you work it. I'm going to show you relentlessly in the next 2 hours, through the latte factor, through this book, how small amounts of money can massively change your life. And you're going to go, yeah, this is amazing, but it takes decades. It does. Because you're not going to get rich overnight. You want to try to get rich overnight, you will stay poor forever. I would say, by the time you see a banner ad or an Instagram ad or an anything ad or that says, I have the solution to make you rich overnight, I can promise you that is a solution for you to be poor forever. Right? The way you build wealth takes decades. It took my grandmother decades, it took me decades. But once you start to get these compound interest charts, the money starts to grow and grow and grow. Now, some of you are like, well, I'm 50. This sucks. The decades still work. You just are going to have to do everything to work longer and get savings. You shouldn't give up at 50 if you haven't started. You shouldn't give up at 60 if you haven't started. My grandmother died at 86, and she was buying stocks at 86. But here's the thing I wanted to show that's the most important thing to know. Well, all this is important. From here to here represents 90,000 hours. You're going to work 90,000 hours over your lifetime. I know, wow, right? Some of you have already worked the 90,000 hours because you don't have 40-hour work weeks, right? Some of you are going to work 100, 110, 120,000 hours. The question is, how much of that time that you traded for money are you going to keep? Because if you don't have a plan to keep some of this money, you won't have any when you get over here. And most people don't have any. And I don't want that to happen to you. Right now in this country, the average, this is what led to the latte factor. 4 out of 10 people in America, according to the Federal Reserve, 3 years ago, 4 out of 10 people in America, 4 out of 10 people in America cannot get their hands on $400 in case of emergency. 6 out of 10 people can't get their hands on $1,000 in case of emergency. The average baby boomer's got less than $100,000 in savings. But in a little bit here as I go through wealth charts, it's not bad for everyone. Stock prices are an all-time high. Real estate, all-time high. I'm going to talk about these 2 escalators to wealth. There's a game to build wealth, and if you know the rules, you can win. There's 42 million Americans now. No, I'm sorry, 42 million millionaires around the world. A number that has grown 4 times in 15 years. A whole lot of people actually are getting rich, but it's a small percentage. And I want you to join those people. So this timeline matters. I'm going to share with you in a little bit how to make sure that these 90,000 hours translate into real wealth. So this is what I just said to you without the slide, but I want to put it up here in case you didn't take the notes real quick. I will say this because it's so important to say this. It's not most people's fault that they're struggling. It's the government's fault. It's the government's fault because, quite frankly, we didn't put this stuff in school. And now what's happening is that we are burying young people in college debt. There's $1.5 trillion now in student loans, and I could do an entire day on this, but it is the biggest scam in America. And what's happening is people are getting out of school with $20, $30, $40, $50, $60, $70, $80, $100,000 in student loans. I promise there's somebody watching Create Live today that has over $100,000 in student loans. In fact, if you've got over $10,000 in student loans, tell us online. This shouldn't have happened. It happened because the government got in the student lending business. And because the government gave out easy money, which is paid for by taxpayers, it allowed the education system to continue to get bloated. It allowed the education system to continue to give teachers tenure and pensions and build more buildings. Did the education go up in value? Where I went to a great college. I won't say what college it was, but let's just say the college that I went to, it was $12,000. It was private, and it was $12,000 a year when I graduated in 1990. And today it's $65,000. Now, did the education become that much more valuable? Today we can learn online for nothing, virtually. But we're coming out of school with $250,000 in debt for an education. It's a mess. Pension plans in America, massively underfunded. You cannot count on all these pension plans. Social Security, it's running out of money. Now, I will give you good news. People are like, is Social Security going to go away? Never going to go away. There's no way it'll ever, in my opinion, ever go away. What it will do is it'll just move the year back you can take it. So like us in this room who aren't taking it yet, by the time we get to the age we can take it, they'll just move the date on us. Because that will solve the problem. No, you can't take it at 62. No, you can't take it at 65. You can take it here. This is what I guarantee you. 20 years from now, you get to take it here. Other people get to take it here at 62. They're going to just move the date. By the way, Social Security is not a whole ton of money anyway, but it happens to be what 7 out of 10 Americans who are retired depend on. Healthcare. I would argue that our healthcare system in America is the most expensive healthcare system in the world, and it's not helping us live longer, and it's getting more expensive. And then I told you that you don't really have career security. Like, here's the thing, guys. I'm not a negative person. My whole career has been built on positivity. I just have to get everybody woken up to the fact that it's actually getting worse. And no one's coming to save you. Now, I originally had pictures of politicians up here. They said it wasn't politically correct. So I had to take the pictures down. And we put Superman here. But imagine there were politicians here. Because there's a lot of them. And I'm not going to say which one it is because it doesn't matter. Politics are a sideshow. Okay? They are. No one's coming to save us. If you are dependent on a president or a party to save you, you are doomed. You are doomed. The recent tax cut. I wanted to pull my phone out. Anybody here find that their taxes went lower, out of curiosity? Anybody's taxes go lower? Your taxes went lower. One person's hand has gone up, like this. She went like this. One person in this room's hand went up. The average American's tax refund was the equivalent of buying a new iPhone. So, no one's coming to save you. You have to save yourself. You have to save yourself. You also need to know the media doesn't care. The media is designed to get you to stay with them as long as possible so that they can run an ad that sells you something. Everything is just an eyeball trick to click on and get you. Now, they now know who they need to get, right? Because the media focuses on who their target audience is, but it's just about getting you on, your eyeballs on, so they can get an ad on. Because if they don't have your eyeball, they can't sell you something. Meanwhile, the ad's designed to sell you something that you don't even need. So, what's happening? Unfortunately, more Americans today are actually not in the game of building wealth. Charts like this are hard to sometimes explain, but I'm going to show you as best I can what's going on. Because how many of you have heard the rich are getting richer? Why is that happening? Here's why it's happening. The amount of Americans that own equities, here it is, it was 22%. It's the red line. Is the red line going up? Do more Americans own equities or do they own less? Significantly less. Like it's come down a lot, right? From 21% in 2001 to 13% here in 2018. Now, if I were to show you another chart, I should have done this. The people who own equities, their net worth is going like this. Because the stock market has been on an absolute tear since the recession. If you've been in the stock market since the recession, since 2007, 2008, 2009, March of 2009, the stock market is up today over 400% with reinvested dividends. So if you've read my older books like Start Late, Finish Rich or Start Over, Finish Rich that I put out in 2010 where I went across America saying, recessions make millionaires, buy stocks now, real estate's on sale, it's the sale of a lifetime. Recessions create every 20 years the sale of a lifetime. Most people get scared out of the markets in recessions. And then they watch the whole thing go off without them. And then they join back at the top of the market. So you've got to be in the game to build wealth. There's a whole bunch of people building wealth. This is the latest wealth survey. As of 2018, 42 million millionaires. That's actually a lot, right? In this country, the numbers are like 15 million now. When I wrote the automatic million, the numbers have more than doubled since I wrote the book in 2004. How are they getting rich? Stocks and real estate. You have to know how to play the game. When I was a kid, I talked about Monopoly. Remember the game of Monopoly? What happens when you go past go? You collect $200. You collect $200. It's your paycheck. Then you go around the board. What happens when you land on a property you don't own? You pay. If you don't own it, you pay. I'm assuming somebody else owns it, right? You pay. How do you win the game of Monopoly? You have to buy a greenhouse, then 2 greenhouses, then 3 greenhouses, then 4, then a hotel. You can't win the game of Monopoly if you don't own those pieces. Otherwise, you just go around and you just keep paying people, okay? That's what the bulk of America does. Bulk of America goes around the board and just keeps paying people. People who are getting rich are buying assets that other people pay them. Stocks and real estate. So, here's the good news. Never been easier to do this. Record amounts of wealth in this country. It is easier to get rich now, actually, with the Trump tax law if you know how to do it. The Trump tax law is making the stock market go higher because all the money went back to corporate America. Corporate America is taking the money and rebuying their stock. It's called dividend reinvestment. Not dividend reinvestment, but it's called stock purchase buybacks. That's fueled the market this year. Stock market is up this quarter right now, 20%. Now, by the way, those of you who invest in the stock market, December was horrible. December was the worst month in 30 years. This quarter is the best quarter in 50. We have the lowest unemployment in this country in 50 years. We have a remarkably strong economy. The GDP right now is 3.2% for the first quarter. Lots of stuff going super well. Rates are staying low. The Fed was going to raise rates in December, then the market tanked. Then the Fed was like, oh, what we meant to say was we're not going to raise rates. And now they went from we're going to raise rates 4 times regardless, which made the stock market tank, which made Trump go on Twitter and go crazy, to, oh, you know what, we changed our mind. We don't see inflation now. We're not raising rates this year. Now there's talk about a possible rate drop. So the markets continue to stay strong. Technology has made it easier to invest. I'm going to share apps later here in a few minutes that literally you can open up your phone and be investing in minutes with these apps. Your change. But you got to know the rules to win at the game. Here's some rules you need to know. How many of you have heard of good debt and bad debt? Okay. So there really are 2 types of debt. And I will say this, good debt can make you rich, provided you understand that there's a very limited amount of good debt. The only way you can get rich borrowing money is to buy an asset. So write that down. You can only make money by borrowing money to buy an asset. That goes up in value. You can't make money borrowing money that buys something that goes down in value. Later I'm going to go through an example with cars because it's the most common thing people borrow money for. So you got to know the difference between good debt and bad debt. Bad debt keeps you poor. The tax laws are set up to favor the rich. They just are. But the good news is you can use those tax laws. Like even when I go back, and we're going to talk about home ownership today, and there's so many tricks with real estate that you can buy real estate, make money, and never pay taxes. You can buy a home, make $250,000, sell it if you're single, not pay tax on it, legally. You can buy a home if you're married. If it goes up in value $500,000, you can sell it, not pay tax on it, legally. You can do it over and over again. I have. You can do it with investment properties. You can buy an investment property. It goes up in value. You can sell it and buy another piece of property, and if you do it correctly, a 1031 exchange, you don't pay taxes. You can put money in retirement accounts. I'm going to teach you retirement accounts today, where if you're self-employed, you can be putting over $50,000 a year away, tax deductible, no taxes. You can even put up to $200,000 away. You just got to know the rules. Rich people never stop learning. Super important thing for you to know, rich people don't do it themselves. You show me somebody who's rich, I'll show you somebody who's getting help. They may be taking classes, reading books, but they're also hiring people to help them. You don't have to do everything yourself. You don't have to know everything. Rich people never stop learning. You want to, Chase does all these amazing segments with people, and it was such a privilege today to be with him. The common denominator among people who do well, they stay curious. When you're a kid, you're curious. You're just naturally curious. My kid's so curious. My younger son, James, is so curious it's a nightmare. But we lose the curiosity as we get older. You got to bring it back. Common denominator, amount of weight. Rich people think they never stop being curious. They never stop asking questions. Rich people live to make their futures bigger than their past. I talked about that earlier. Wealth is about freedom. Rich people focus on that. If you're building wealth and that wealth is not helping you become free, then you're just ending up with more stuff. And by the way, there are rich people who have a lot of stuff and they're not happy. It's just true. Like you can have a lot of stuff and still be miserable. The ironic thing is so often people who thought stuff would make them happy, once they made their money and they get their stuff and the stuff doesn't make them happy, they get super depressed. I can't tell you how many rich people I know that are in the process of getting rid of their stuff. Because they're like, I got all this stuff, I got the big house, the kids have gone off to college, I don't need the big house, I actually don't need all this stuff. I'm getting ready to move to Florence, Italy. I'm doing this book, I'm touring across America, and in 90 days I'm moving to Florence, Italy. With my family for a year, taking a year sabbatical to just live. Part of what I'm going to teach today is also the live rich philosophy. You don't have to be rich to live rich. Life is about experiences. The fastest way to make yourself happy is go have more experiences. It's not go have more money, it's go have more experiences. And the thing for you to know is that a lot of experiences don't take a whole lot of money. They take thought. I mean, I had somebody who read this book and she's like, I went out for a long walk in the park after you said that. After I read the book, I was like, what is something I can do today that would make me feel better? She's like, every time I go for a walk in the park, I feel better. She's like, I've been for a walk in the park in a year. Park's free, right? She's like, I went for a walk in the park for 2 hours and I just was like looking around and looking at the flowers and listening to the birds. And she's like, I felt like I was living rich. And she's like, it didn't cost me anything. So, but to get you there, I have to help you change your thinking, and you just need to know that there are certain things that are escalators to wealth. You can be on an escalator that goes up. You can be on an escalator that goes down. So here's up. Write down escalator up. You have to own stocks. I'm going to show you later the rate of return for stocks, but you can make an enormous rate of return in the stock market. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12%. Not guaranteed, but over time. I'm going to show you historically that this is what the markets have done. You have to own real estate because you can't get rich renting. I'm going to, again, today go through all the things about why you can't get rich renting so that you don't rent, because landlords get rich and renters stay poor. The escalator down. Oh, a couple other things just to know. And again, I'm going to say this again today, but escalator up. Whatever you make, you have to spend less than you make. Just write that down. You have to spend less than you make. It doesn't matter what you make. If you spend more than you make, you'll always be poor. And it's like, I know this is so obvious, but it's true. You can't borrow money and pay 10, 15, 20, 30% interest rates and build wealth. It's not possible because you can't get escalators going up. They're going to give you a higher rate of return than that credit card taking you down. That credit card at 20 or 25 or 30% is taking you down. Those payday loans that can annualize out at 300% a year or even higher, those places should be shut down. But there are more payday locations, check cashing locations, than McDonald's now. And that is just a serious escalator down. Like if I could put you on a slide down, it would be that. So we need to go through starting with something super simple. I'm going to share with you right now a chart that started me off. So I told you how my grandmother helped me buy my first stock. What I didn't tell you is by the way, if I go back to this thing for a second, go back to that escalator. I told you I learned how to buy a stock at 7. That was really cool. What I didn't tell you is I took an escalator down in college. The escalator I took down was credit cards. Because when I went to school, the credit card companies were lined up in front of my dorm, and they were handing out a bike lock a dictionary that tells you how long ago this was, and a T-shirt. And all I had to do was hand them my student ID. It was called a Valentine card. And if I handed them that student ID, I got a $500 instant credit card, and that T-shirt, and that dictionary, and that bike lock. Well, they were lined up after you received your Valentine card. So what do you think? This is going into the dorms. Day 1 at college. What do you think every single kid did? They all signed up. Every kid got the T-shirt and the bike lock and the dictionary. Now, I thought it was pretty smart. So I told myself, I'm going to just use those credit cards in case of emergency purposes. And I got a free T-shirt. And I got a free bike lock. Today, they're just frequent flyer points, right? And so the credit cards all showed up in everybody's mailbox in the dorm. And what do you think we did as soon as we got them? We went out and partied. We literally went to the bar with our brand new credit cards, and we played the game called Credit Card Roulette. At the end, at the end after the beer, the bill would come, and you put your card in a pile, and then one would get picked out. It's mind-boggling how dumb you can be at 18. That started my process of using credit cards. By sophomore year, I was $5,000 in credit card debt. Now, in the beginning, I thought I was fine because I was making minimum payments. It wasn't a big deal. Minimum payments were $15, and they were $20, and they were $30, and I could make them. And some of you have been there too. And then sophomore year, I couldn't make the minimum payments anymore. So I came home. Oh, and by the way, once I got to $500 limit, you know what the credit card companies did to me? They said thank you, and they raised it for doing such a good job of using the cards. That's how I got $5,000 in credit card debt. So now I come home for the holidays. Dad, we need to have a talk. Okay, son. Talks always happen in my dad's office. Dad, I don't know how to tell you this, but we have a problem. And I take out the credit card bills, and I hand them to him. He looks at the bills. He goes, son, wow. You got yourself $5,000 in credit card debt. Son, we don't have a problem. What do you mean, Dad? He hands the bill back to me. He goes, do you see my name on this bill? I go, no. He goes, whose name do you see on the bill? I go, I see my name. He goes, like I said, we don't have a problem. You have a problem. And if you don't make these minimum payments, all I can tell you, these were his exact words, you're going to ruin your credit score. And if you ruin your credit score at 19, you're going to ruin your financial life. So you better figure it out. And he walked out of the office. And I thought to myself, this was not how I hoped it was going to go. So, before I'm getting ready to leave, he's like, how are you going to pay those cards off? I go, I don't know. I guess I got to get a job. He's like, yeah. I go, okay, get a job. So I go back to school. First thing I do is I look at the bookstore. Are they hiring? They're always hiring at the bookstores on campus. Yeah, you're hired. How many hours you want to work? Well, how much you pay? They tell me how much you're going to pay. I go back to my dorm. I start doing the math. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to work 25 hours a week to pay these cards off. And I got to go to college. I am seriously, which turned me into an entrepreneur because I'm like, I can't make minimum wage in a college bookstore and get out of this credit card debt. At 19, I'm going to have to figure out a way to make more money. I started selling T-shirts and advertising to make more money, which I did, which got me out of credit card debt, which I was very proud of. I was Superman. Like that picture, I saved myself. I got myself back into credit card debt. By the time I graduated college, I was over $15,000 in credit card debt. So I had to be dumb twice before I learned my lesson because I took that escalator down. And I tried all the tricks, by the way. Example of dumb tricks. Put your credit cards in a freezer with water and freeze it, and then you'll have to, you won't have access to your cards. Then everybody's going to Vegas. I'm like, I need my credit card. So I go and I melted the credit card by putting it in the microwave to get the water. I did all the dumb things until It's hilarious, right? I cut up the cards. They saw me not using them. They sent me new cards. Right? But I was out of college. I was like, I'm never going to be in credit card debt again. I cut up my cards. I went to a debit card and a charge card. And for the next 30 years, I basically didn't have credit cards. Because I was like, I'm never going to carry dumb debt. So I don't want you to think I've done this all perfectly. This is what happened to me that changed my life.